Hello and welcome to another opportunity to quit smoking forever, for good, and to never touch another cigarette again. Today I want to share 7 ways to quit smoking with you that are based on scientific research and also on the experience from my coaching clients. And the first thing that I advise you to do, or let's say I invite you to do, it's of course totally up to you if you put the advice that I share with you here into practice. But the first tip that I have for you is to replace your habit of taking a cigarette with a habit that brings you further in life, a habit that's actually good for you. And this is something that a lot of my clients experimented with, and they had great success with it, because more often than not, getting a cigarette is just a habit. It's a habit, and you got used to it to such an extent that without this habit, you feel like something is missing in your life. We human beings, we are always resistant to change, especially when this change implies that we might experience some withdrawal symptoms. Then we resist change even more, because human beings hate change, and we also hate every negative emotion and negative feeling of pain, no matter if it's physical or emotional. So for example, usually whenever you're stressed, you're taking out a cigarette and you're smoking a cigarette. That's a habit, and the trigger is stress. So identify the trigger and then identify the habit, which in this case is getting a cigarette and smoking a cigarette. So now if the same trigger happens, you can replace the habit of taking a cigarette with another habit, no matter if the trigger might be stress, if the trigger might be after intimacy with your wife or with your boyfriend or with your girlfriend or with your husband or whoever you're dating. And another trigger that a lot of my coaching clients report is after a meal, when they had a satisfying meal, often for some reason when they had a fatty meal, when they had a big steak, then the trigger was feeling full, and then they wanted to get a cigarette, and it was a habit. And a lot of my coaching clients told me that they didn't even consciously get the cigarette and consciously realize that they started smoking the cigarette. It was so ingrained in them, it was a habit. And your job now is to change the habit. So whenever, for example, you are full after a delicious meal, you have to consciously remind yourself that the habit of getting a cigarette is no longer a part of your life. And now you might be simply sipping a glass of water, sipping a little bit of water, or you might be meditating for a minute. The new habit can be anything that's healthy. It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to run out after a meal and run a marathon. That's actually not healthy at all. Just some simple habit that then reminds you that you are slowly but steadily changing the habit of taking a cigarette into the new habit. So for example, one of my clients, he actually after every meal, instead of smoking a cigarette, just had a sip of water, a large sip of water, and in his mind he then reminded himself that this is the new habit that replaces the old habit of taking a cigarette. And avoid places and people that trigger the desire to smoke a cigarette. I mean, now you might be saying, what kind of people might trigger me to smoke a cigarette? For example, some friends who always smoked with you, and also especially people who are stressing you out, because stress is often a big trigger for smokers to grab a cigarette. In fact, a lot of my coaching clients actually told me that stressful experiences in their life were the beginning of their smoking journey. Before they didn't smoke, but then because there was some stressful event, something happened, they felt emotionally overwhelmed, then they started smoking. This was at least true for the people who started smoking later in life and not in their teenage years. So avoid places and people that trigger the desire to smoke a cigarette. If you, for example, hang out in the bar that you used to smoke in every evening, then you don't have to wonder why quitting smoking is so hard for you. But if you go to a new place where your mind and your brain doesn't have any connection to smoking yet, then it will be easier for you to quit smoking, because there's no trigger anymore, and the new place doesn't have this reference experience in your mind of being the place where you smoke a cigarette. And then talk to yourself in moments where your mind tries to trick you into having just one cigarette. Don't believe your mind. Your mind is lying. You know that you won't just have one cigarette. You know that it will be 1, then 2, then 3. So in these moments, right before you're about to grab the cigarette, you have to consciously talk to your mind and talk your mind out of it, and remind yourself that what you're about to do is not good for you. And you can see this in the same way as somebody who's about to cheat on their spouse. Right before they close the bedroom door, if they remind themselves in this moment consciously, this is a mistake, I shouldn't be doing this, stop, and you really talk to yourself in this moment, bad things can be prevented. In the same way as you can prevent your habit of taking a cigarette and smoking it by consciously talking to yourself. But of course, your subconscious programs might still try to sabotage you. And that's why programming your subconscious mind to be disgusted by cigarettes and to quit smoking with ease is so effective. And that's also why Drew Barrymore, Billy Joel, Britney Spears, Matt Damon, and even Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ewan McGregor quit smoking with the power of hypnosis. And as a certified hypnotist, accredited by the American Alliance of Hypnotists, I am so honored to help you on your journey towards a smoking-free life, towards a life without cigarettes and without the desire to even get a cigarette. And according to science, hypnosis is the most effective way of giving up smoking, at least according to the largest ever scientific comparison of ways of breaking this habit. A meta-analysis statistically combining results of more than 600 studies of 72,000 people from America and Europe compared various methods of quitting smoking. And on average, hypnosis was over 3 times as effective as nicotine replacement methods and 15 times as effective as trying to quit alone. And this study was published in the University of Iowa in the Journal of Applied Psychology, how 1 in 5 give up smoking. And if you want, you can of course look that study up, and you can of course also take action, or let's better say, you can allow me to help you to reprogram your subconscious mind while you're simply relaxing. And if you want to find out more about the smoking cessation hypnosis sessions that I offer, you can go to quitsmokingtodaypodcast.com/hypnosis, or you can simply click on the first link in the description. And I would be honored if you allowed me to help you on your journey and to help you to finally give up cigarettes forever. And another way to quit smoking is by using nicotine replacement therapy. And you can also, of course, start with nicotine replacement therapy and then use hypnosis in the process. And when it comes to nicotine replacement therapy, you can use skin patches, you can use inhalators, which look a little bit like plastic cigarettes, you can use oral stripes, and you can also use nasal and mouth spray. And this is one way to slowly but steadily accustom your body to less and less nicotine in your system. And speaking of your system, speaking of your body, if you want to physically heal your body, you can also invest in the lung support supplement that a lot of my clients experienced improvement with, because your lungs need to recover after years of smoking. And this supplement can make this easier. This supplement, for example, includes antioxidant botanicals, for example, quercetin, citrus, bioflavonoids, and pine bark extract. And yes, as a German, I probably pronounced them wrong, but the ingredients are still scientifically proven to help your lungs to recover. And if you want to find out more about this incredible supplement, you can click on the second link in the description or go to quitsmokingtodaypodcast.com/breathe. And what I'm about to say now sounds really extreme and it's not for everyone, but I decided to share it with you because one of my clients had great success with it. In fact, he encouraged me to share this with you. And yes, it sounds extreme, so don't jump out of your chair right now when you're listening to this, but one of my clients decided to volunteer in a hospice and saw what smoking can do to the body and how years of smoking can end your life in a very miserable way. And this left a lasting impression on him. I mean, he had already quit smoking after our 3rd or 4th hypnosis session, I think 3 or 4. I don't remember the exact number of sessions we had, but I think it was 3 or 4, either 3 or 4. And he then told me that this experience was absolutely life-changing for him. And this is also something that if you're really struggling with quitting smoking, you might want to do. It's a kind of a shock therapy, but it can work. For this one client, it worked. But of course, that's something that I leave up to you. That's a decision only you can make. And the last tip I have for you, the last way to quit smoking, is to surround yourself with supportive people and let go of people who want you to continue smoking. This is so crucial. This is so important. If you continue to hang out with people who don't want you to quit because they don't want to quit, or maybe they want to quit, but they don't have the mental and emotional strength to quit, then you will most likely not succeed, because we are always the average of the people we hang out with. And especially if these people pretend to be our friends, I mean, let's be honest, if this guy or this woman would really be your friend, then he or she wouldn't encourage you to continue smoking. Because, well, it's not good for your health and not good for your body. They would actually encourage you to quit if they were a good friend. But a lot of people are just, they are friends in the sense that they want you to stay at the level that you're at right now. And then they might tell you, come on, don't try hypnosis to quit smoking. You don't need to quit. Come on, have a cigarette, have a beer, just relax a little bit. You don't need to do that. You're okay. Everything is okay. Don't worry about it. And this can destroy your life. This can mess up everything. So be careful who you surround yourself with, and surround yourself with supportive people who actually want the best for you. And the best for you is that you finally quit smoking.